to order. I apologize for running behind. We were having a great presentation from our middle school and high school guidance counselors. So we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Dr. Thomason, roll call.
President Reese, please let the record show that we have all 5 board members present tonight.
Thank you. We will go on to our moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we will go on to the approval of our agenda. I move that we approve the agenda with the removal of item 7.7, student travel, from consent for separate discussion.
Support.
Any comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Superintendent's report, Dr. Thomason.
President Reese, members of the board, community, at this time I would like to invite up Michelle Reese to recognize a special school for tonight. So Michelle Reese, I'll turn it over to you for our points of pride.
Thank you very much. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Thomason, cabinet, and of course our audience, I'd like to bring up our principal and assistant principal from Santan Elementary, Mr. Ray Mikado and Miss Lindsay Reeves.
Thank you. President Reese, board, Dr. Thomason. Cabinet and community members, thank you for this opportunity. I love this time of the year where we get to celebrate the amazing staff members, community members, students, and so on that make Santan the amazing school that we are. It's an amazing feeling coming to a school knowing that these individuals day in and day out give 100% every single day, even when they're not feeling well. So I'm honored and blessed to be standing here and their principal. So I just thank you for being here tonight. Blair Bowden, our student, 6th grade, come on up. Blair is our 6th grade student body president. Blair is just an amazing, amazing student. Just everything we ask her to do, she does at 1,000%. She's done our PA announcements, and she brought it. She would find me on campus, and even in the morning when I was doing duty, she'd come out and say, "Can we do this? You really want to sing on the PA?" "Yeah, go for it." So she brought it every day. She made the front office fun and exciting. She definitely has a presence wherever she goes, so congratulations. Mr. Rosh, Tom Rosh. Mr. Rosh, community member, has 2 kiddos in our campus. Mr. Rosh has, with his family, revitalized our reading garden area. in the center of campus, done an amazing job, countless hours of his own time revitalizing this area for our whole student body and staff to go out and read and do projects. My art teacher loves it because it's right outside his door, and I've had to tell him, do not go out there and use paint. And so Mr. Rosh and family has just done a wonderful job supporting our campus day in and day out. So thank you for what you guys have done. Miss Carrie Ann Chamberlain. Carrie Ann, I think she's held every position on our campus and still does. Every single day, if there is an area that we need support, Carrie Ann is there. And she says, I will do it, I will do it. And she runs there and she does it with a big smile. And the whole community knows her. She definitely is the foundation of our campus because kids love her, family members love her, I love her. She just does an amazing job every single day, and she brings it every day to support our community and campus, so thank you. Our PE teacher, Jessica Richardson. Jessica is new to us. She's on her second year, coming from, we stole her from Mesa, and has just done an amazing job on our campus. During the interview process, she asked, can I do like a field day? Yes, you can. Yes, yes, yes. So every single day, she is modeling for students. She's engaged with students. We just had our turkey trot, our second annual turkey trot. And so anything that she can do to support our campus and get the community out, she's all over it. So thank you for what you do at Centen. And friends, come up. We're going to take a picture.
Thank you, Santan. We'd now like to bring forward two of our principals to do some very, very, very special teacher recognition. Higley High Principal Nancy Diab Scott and Sossaman Principal John Dolan.
So before she starts, first of all, board, cabinet, and community members, thank you guys for having us up here. We want to recognize some not only outstanding teachers, but some teachers that have been with us for long periods of time, and I think that that's probably the most valid thing here. When you look at our district, or teaching in general, how nice it is to see people that are with the same place for extended period of time and the impact that they have. So I'll stop for a second because I know you have something you're going to read.
We're going to read. And I'm going to reiterate exactly what John said. I've had the opportunity of actually knowing these three amazing ladies and gentlemen for 13 years, if you can believe it, since I've started in this district. So while I read this, though, I am going to have them come on up. So Mr. Don Anderson, Ms. Kathy Dorr, and Mrs. Nancy Foote, if you guys could please join us up here. These amazing, fabulous men and two wonderful ladies were recertified to be National Board Certified Teachers. And if I could just tell you a little bit about what National Board Certified Teachers are. So National Board Certification was designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers and to generate ongoing improvement in schools nationwide. It is the most respected professional certification available in the K-12 education. It was created by teachers for teachers. The National Board standards represent a consensus among educators about what accomplished teachers should know and be able to do. Board certification is available in 25 certificated areas spanning 16 disciplines from pre-K through 12th grade. And the certification process requires the teachers demonstrate standards-based evidence of the positive effect they have on the student learning in alignment with the 5 core propositions. And these are understanding of their students, content knowledge, use of data and assessment, and their teaching practice. They must also show that they participate in learning communities and provide evidence of ongoing reflection and continuous learning. So they have provided all of that and turned it in and received that recertification through hours of diligent work. Thank you so much for what you do for our kids, for our staff, what you bring to our campuses, and the relationships that you have built. It's truly an honor to work with all three of you. If you guys want to tell us a little bit about who's here with you guys.
My parents, John and Carol, are here from Jackson, Wyoming. Oh, actually, they moved to Star Valley because Jackson's too expensive. And my husband, Kevin, is here.
And I'm a loner because we had church obligations tonight.
Poor guy came, he had no voice today. He was literally, poor guy, teaching and with no voice, and the kids were great for him.
I brought my husband Bruce, my daughter Tara, and my 3 grandkids, Lucy and Livy and Everett, 3 of my grandkids.
I'll bet you if we looked at their records and see how many hours left they have as far as how they could take days off, they probably could retire right now with that. I'm just guessing, but I can only speak, for the people. Well, yes, that's kind of a different thing for Nancy, but the dedication that Nancy talked about and the things that they do on our campuses that aren't even touched on that is unbelievable. And I know for myself, being a second-year principal, I have somebody next to me that was a principal. So I can run ideas by her. She's on my leadership team. And I don't know Kathy or Don, but I'm sure that Nancy can tell us things that they do on their campuses that are just, they're so valuable to us. So again, thank you guys all very, very much. Why don't you guys come on up here and get pictures?
President Reese, members of the board, we do have some upcoming events. Next week, and December 22nd, we are halfway through the school year, so we have winter break coming up from December 22nd to January 5th. Then we have a board retreat on Saturday, January 13th, followed by the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday on Monday, January 15th, and a work study with our new schedule on Wednesday, January 17th, and the board meeting on Wednesday, January 31st. That's what we have for our upcoming events.
Thank you. All right, we will go on to board comments. I would like to recognize our Gilbert Councilman, Scott Anderson. Thank you for coming. He gets to come hang out with us when he's... Right?
It's a gift.
Yes. But when you guys do the student recognition, there is no room in there. So thank you for spending your evening with us. On board comments, I would just like to say that Mr. Glover and I got to attend the Gilbert Excellence Awards with Dr. Thomason, and it was a very exciting night for Higley. Williamsfield high school student Katie Markling was recognized for the Arizona Republic Young Hero Award. That was really exciting. And then Bridges gifted coordinator Jennifer Robinson, Caroline Lamoureux was volunteer, and Michelle Bourget from Cooley Earlyhood Child Development Center, they were all recognized at the Gilbert Excellence Awards. So that was an exciting evening. The entire board got to attend the Higley Achievement Foundation's Monte Carlo night, and lots of staff was there. It was a lot of fun. I hope that becomes at least an annual event, if not semi-annual event.
President Reese, members of the board, the Higley Academic Foundation was able to raise over $13,000 for student scholarships for post-secondary educational and classroom opportunities within the district. Very nice, very nice.
Also, I would like to thank Trilogy for the gifts for our students and families. They donated a lot of gifts for our students and families in need, and this was their 16th year of doing so. So we really appreciate Trilogy for their support for our district and our families. So thank you to them. I did get to attend the turkey trot at Santan. That was a lot of fun. And I have to tell you, somewhere, somehow, they found a turkey costume. And they literally did chase the turkey. They had a teacher in this full, like footed jammies with the head, everything. They had him way out ahead and then let the kids go running after them. It was a sight to see. Let me tell you, the kids caught up because they couldn't run anymore in that outfit. But it was a full school-wide effort. It was really fun. I also got to tour Cooley and Williamsfield. We have a lot of great things going on in our district. Thank you, Mr. Tannenbaum. I can tell you, based on the feedback previously from previous tours and this one that I attended last week, the culture of your campus is amazing. It's very different. The students were great. They've recognized it. They're very grateful. So thank you for doing such a good job. And it was good to hear from students and to sit down with students from Cooley. They were amazing as well, very grown up. So I appreciated those. Other board comments?
I would just like to say it was an honor this last month over at the Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving, a number of Higley students were with me, and we volunteered at the Chandler Boys and Girls Club for the annual community Thanksgiving dinner, and they served over 700 people Thanksgiving dinner on Wednesday night, so it was nice to see Higley represented at that. And also last Friday, a number of Higley students were with me and at ICANN, and it was in Chandler, and we gift wrapped presents for the children in the community. So it's really nice to see the students in our community doing volunteer work and giving back to the community.
Very good.
I feel like I haven't been here in a couple months, and I haven't, but I've still been around. I too wanted to thank Trilogy for their Angel Tree donations. That's amazing. The night of your Gilbert function, I attended the Queen Creek suicide prevention talk. They are continuing to do a lot over in Queen Creek, and I know that Chris Clark is working very closely with Nancy Diab over at Higley, and hopefully Williamsfield. It will all kind of be a trickle effect. But I just wanted to thank our district for taking the time to do a mental health awareness type of week. I think it is imperative. I learned of another suicide just 2 nights ago at GCU. And so it's just nonstop right now. And we need to put any resources we have towards the awareness campaign. So I'm thankful that Higley's really taken that by the horns. I was able to attend a few events, some before Thanksgiving. There was a Sossaman and a Higley dance concert. Those were both fabulous. And I love that the Higley girls invited the Sossaman, well, I can't say all girls because it's girls and guys, invited the Sossaman kiddos to come and perform on their night, which I just love when our junior high and our high schools are mixing together. I love that. I got to see part of the Higley Band concert last night. I couldn't see the whole thing, but what I did see, I loved. They had a jazz band going on, and that jazz band needs to be like in a restaurant with a dance floor. I'm just saying. I mean, you wanted to dance, and you couldn't because you would look silly. And she's not here anymore, but Mrs. Patty Smith, I know she's been sending out a lot of tweets lately on all the academic accolades for our seniors. And if you're on Twitter, you should follow her. I get to see every time a student is accepted at a college, the scholarships. She's just really good about putting that out there. I know our football teams are getting lots of looks and offers, and Drayson Hall, oh my goodness, that was awesome. But it's also great to see the academics too, because sometimes they don't get quite the hero's welcome as some of our sports players. So anyways, those are some of the things that I've been watching.
Any other board comments?
Well, I echo all the same things you said. I just also was at the Saturday at Cortina. They hosted a giant VEX robotics competition, which was kind of insane but fun. I just wanted the HAF Monte Carlo night was quite a good bit of fun, and I hope we can build on that in the future. And I also learned I could easily have a gambling problem, so I stay away from that. But no, the Gilbert Excellence Awards, I wanted to just add to what you said. The thing that struck me at that event is that Gilbert is still, it's a small town centered around our schools, and that we still care about one another. And it's just a good reminder about the importance of what our faculty and our families do, and to make this a place where we all choose to live. So, thank you.
Awesome. Any other comments? All right. We will go on then to request to speak to governing board. Do we have any requests? All right. We will go on to the consent agenda. I move that we approve consent agenda items, 7.1 through 7.16. I removed the 7.7 for separate conversation. There is an update on 7.8 that I just want to point out in the motion, is that the initial conference for Patty Gleason for her travel was not available any longer, and we have all received an updated one, so I move that we include the updated travel. It's in replacement of what we had in our board packet because that conference closed.
Do you need a second on that motion?
I do.
Second.
Is that you, Mr. Glover? Right. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Yes, Madam President, just a few. Are we?
Yes.
Okay. Well, 7.7.
7.7, we're not there yet, sorry.
Okay.
Anything outside of 7.7, we'll have separate discussion on that.
Wait a minute, you know what? So then the numbers changed here then. 7.8, I wrote it down wrong. 7.8.
Staff travel?
Staff travel, and this isn't a criticism or anything, so don't be alarmed. I just noticed that like elementary and secondary art, we're going on some pretty interesting trips, professional developments, and also Ms. Broadley at Centennial is doing RTI. So just a reminder, Dr. Thomason, we have SETI coming up, and if this would be a great place if they wanted to share what they've learned at our the Summer Institute. Please invite them if you.
President Reese, members of the board, I did work with our cabinet this week to talk about our coaches presenting at SETI, and so I think we'll have some exciting takers to be able to come and share some stuff with the consortium we have between the Higley Unified School District and Gilbert Public Schools for the summer.
And following up, I did notice that there was a member of Higley going to the U.S. Army All-American Bowl, not at no cost to the district, and I was just wondering if that person was going to take the offer for the Golden Knights parachute team and do the tandem jump.
President Reese, members of the board, the individual who's going has to get permission from his wife to do the tandem parachute jump, and I'm not sure that he'll be able to get permission from his wife to do that tandem parachute jump.
Well, I have a GoPro you can borrow if you do decide to do that.
We'll have to hear all about that one, won't we?
And then I think I got to get my numbers right. 7.14, I just want to thank Ms. Corey and the committee. I did make a suggestion about some wording, and they did change it, so I wanted to thank them for their attention to that detail and for humoring me on that one. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments regarding consent? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. We will now have our separate discussion on 7.7 for our overnight or out-of-state student travel. And it's my understanding that, Mr. Tannenbaum, you were prepared to answer some questions. Let me pull it up. So where I wanted to have some separate discussion on the overnight and out-of-state travel. And thank you, Dr. Mallerwein. Just so the rest of the board knows, I did have a question on both the Higley High and the Williamsfield Student Government Convention, because based on what was in our board packet, both schools attending the same convention, we had two different prices. And so I was asking why, because it's the same amount, and Dr. Mallerwein was able to get that information, and it's simply just based on where they're able to stay for a hotel. So just so you know the difference, but so I did have questions, so thank you on that. So where my separate discussion comes in is travel request number 5 for Williamsfield for the student council to be traveling to Anaheim in February for a 3-hour workshop in Disney. And I'm going to give some background before we start into some questions. And I know we're a fairly new board. This type of travel has been a discussion from day one that I've been on this board, no matter how many have kind of come and gone. And Disneyland and Disney, no doubt has, it sets the bar on a lot of workshops, interactions, between student focus and corporation focus. There's corporations that pay a lot of money to go to Disney for training and information. So I do see value in Disney's workshops. So I'll preface that. a couple things that were concerning to me that I'll share with the board that I had conversation with Dr. Thomason. Attached with our information, one was that permission slips and requests for deposits went out and were due back December 1st prior to the request even coming to the board. So that was one concern I had with the trip. My understanding is there was some clarification. There was some questions asked about funding and if student council funds were going to be used for this. We were told no, this is 100% student pay. Is that accurate?
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Thomason, cabinet members. Correct. Yeah, it is broken down for a student. Students are paying in. Sure, they are putting money into the account for the student government. However, that money is generated from the students paying.
Right. So none of their trip is subsidized from that student council account.
No.
Okay. So my other question, and there's been some discussion, is that they would be leaving on Thursday at 1:30. There was some conflicting dates on what was on the flyer, what was on our trip request, and I think that's been cleared up.
Correct, and I apologize for it. You're absolutely correct. There is some conflicting dates that were there, that it was marked for a Sunday to a Tuesday, I believe, but actually the real date and time is they're leaving that Thursday afternoon, and then we'll be coming home Saturday evening.
Okay.
So they'll miss a full day that Friday.
Full day of Friday.
Fifth hour for them is student government, so that course is actually not missed because the students that are part of it. 9 of our students are seniors that actually have a half-day schedule, so then the other groups of those students are only missing one period of the day, Thursday, and then missing the Friday.
So with the discussion about travel like this from previous boards, this is a 3-hour workshop. It's a request of a 2-night hotel stay. We do have several groups who take advantage of Disney's training opportunities, and they choose to do it on a roundabout. They leave Friday night on a bus, they arrive Saturday, they're in the park, they get time in the park, they do their performance, their workshop, they interact with Disney officials, and then they return, get back on the bus that night and return the following morning. Typically, school's not missed for that. So my concern is that we're asking for 2 nights of hotel stay and for a 3-hour workshop. So I do have a concern for that as to were other options considered, what was looked at, because this is coming out of parents' pockets. And I know we're talking about one trip here, but that's kind of not just what we're talking about, because we get these requests all the time. And as a board, we review these, and we see everything parents are being asked to pay. This trip is not eligible for tax credit, so parents can't use tax credit. So they have to, it's 100% student parent funded. So how, for me, I think we should be trying to minimize that cost. So that was, this workshop is offered 7 days a week, so that was kind of concerning to me. The other information that was shared is that this trip was offered to student council as a reward. I am very concerned about that. I don't think we should be offering any type of trip travel as a reward for students doing well in any function. So, I mean, are you aware of that?
Glad to address that. So going backwards into why, and this is speaking with our student council advisor, this is the first year that they've elected to go on this field trip, and that kind of came in part from one of the Gilbert schools that had a student council group that did the exact same thing. They actually participated in, I believe, earlier in the month in November, and they had received great feedback about it. Their student government went, they shared a bunch of ideas that it wasn't just about the 3 hours or so. I believe it's a touch longer than that with them on that Friday. I could be wrong, but it was also about the leadership opportunities that the kids will have that are electing to go, electing to pay for it. choice of theirs and their family to sign up for it, to go to it. They are participating in some leadership activities that evening when they get in. They're participating in leadership activities, though it's not run by Disney at certain points. There's a bit of leadership scavenger hunt amongst each other, some planning periods that's going to be going on into the second semester, moving all the way into that Friday and into that Saturday that I know Ms. Peden and Ms. Gosler are taking their student government through, because it's some of the same questions that I had for them as well. So what else besides Disney and the trip are we doing? And my hope would be team building and activities and those pieces, which they did. They had it laid out. They could show me examples of those pieces. It was good to see. And they had heard from previous or other schools that it was really a good, excellent experience for them. Reviewing the website that Disney had in place, like you had mentioned, it looks great. I mean, you're reading about what they're learning, talking about diversity in the workplace, leadership skills, thinking outside of the box. All of those elements are played into that. So that was part of the reason for them and the request that they had to go on to the trip. The next element for them, the missing of school. It is a day outside. There is instructional time being missed. I can tell you that with them, the students that are choosing to go and the parents are choosing to have them go, there is grade checks that take place with that. Students have to have the correct amount of grades, as they do in many field trips to go to EBIT or other outside entities. It's a pretty standard piece for them that if they're electing to go on a field trip, they need to have a certain amount of grades that are there as well.
Well, and we were just talking about that convention. That convention happens in January, and then this trip's being requested in February. So we kind of have back-to-back time frames. I understand the convention's 12 kids. This request is 46 kids. So obviously not all the kids are going to the state convention.
The association allows them only to bring a certain amount of students, and that number was 12.
Okay.
That's where the thought process came with going to the trip, and then of course the grade elements that are put into place there, the students missing the day one Friday.
Can I just refresh my memory, President Reese? How much is this per student?
It's $325 per student plus plus an additional recommended of $100.
So we're
$425.
So we're taking 40 students, 40-some students. How many chaperones? 5 chaperones. Okay.
There's 5 now?
Okay.
Oh, yes, sorry, there's 5.
And that was based on the ratio of moving forward with the travel package, was that 1-to-20 ratio, but they did more 1-to-10 ratio, because that was what the travel.
So what if one of your students is not, family's not financially able to do this? How are we helping them?
That actually took place in one setting. Great question, same question I had as well. When it came across, they did have a couple students that elected and spoke with our advisors, and there was some sponsoring that took place for that student, because they wanted that student to have an opportunity and found a way to make sure that happened. So students that were choosing to go, a pretty tight-knit group, built a good relationship, speaking to each other, the student council advisors, and a few students did approach them, and they did find a way to make that happen.
So that 42, that's your entire student council body?
There is some students outside that elected not to go for whatever reason. The majority of those students that were able to attend. Again, their parents' choice, the student's choice. They made that choice to go.
The district office received a call from a parent saying that their kid would not be attending, and they were very concerned about student council money being used for this because they didn't think this is an appropriate trip. So, I mean, there's students that parents are electing not to send them, whether it be financial or personal.
And it's only 3 hours?
It's a 3-hour workshop
For that portion of the leadership, for the portion that's run through Disney,
through Disney.
for the portion that's outside of that, for team building and other elements, there's pieces that additional.
What's so special about this workshop?
For them, they received, it's their first time going. I mean, I can't speak in details because I've yet not attended. I've attended other leadership conferences, but not this one in particular. They had heard great things about it. They had heard elements that it was really positive. They had a school within Gilbert that had their student government go. They had heard great feedback at their student council camp during the summertime about it, and elected to be able to sign up for that piece.
So the state conference we send 12 students to, and then this conference we're sending 40 people to,
I think the state conference is limited to 12 per school.
Only allowed to send 12.
okay. So why do we have to send 42 to this conference? I'm just kind of
The
curious.
workshop.
For the workshop, I'm just curious.
And I think that kind of where, one, I worry about the precedents it sets, because these types of trips have been an ongoing battle on, I want to go to Disney, let me find something that they do. So, and like I said, these have been conversations for the past 5 years since I've been on the board. And I have to say, this is the first one that has requested hotel stay, because all the other trips that do go to Disney, they do travel Friday night, arrive Saturday morning. They do their piece with Disney during the day, whether it's performance, whatever, workshop, choir, band, different types of performance pieces, because those workshops aren't very long either. I mean, they're 2-3 hours just like this one. And the students have a great time. I mean, they get to be in the park ahead of time, they go do their thing, they have all night into the park, and then they load on the bus and come back. So I have to say that Disney's already been a conversation, and this is the first one that I have seen in 5 years requesting hotel stay. So,
President Reese?
So only a quick turnaround, I'm sorry.
yes, typically it's like on our student travel, there is another request for Sossaman Choir. They will board the bus Friday night, be on the bus all night, arrive in Disney all day, do their choir performance, perform in Disney. They have the rest of the evening. They get to enjoy the park. I think that's a great benefit of getting to participate in Disney. So I love Disneyland too. California Adventure's awesome. But they're there for the day, and then they return on the bus, and they return home Sunday morning.
Just so I understand, so the concern is more so the length of stay, not so much the conference, or a combination?
Well, I think it's the length of stay because of the amount of the time the conference is. For 2-night hotel stay for a 3-hour conference is where I have most of my issue, and I can only speak for myself.
President Reese, I too have, I've been around long enough to know that there was a time where we did take the Disneyland trip completely away from all entities whatsoever, and there was, it was hard to, the students were upset, no doubt. And then there's part of me too where I'm looking at this going, how is it that they have a 2-night hotel stay for $325, and then Sossaman is still $300 just for a turnaround bus trip? So I'm a little conflicted right now, just kind of looking at that piece of it, going, why do they need to stay for 2 nights in a hotel? And I understand they want to do that leadership kind of activities in a hotel. I don't know, I'm conflicted a little bit just hearing all the pieces.
Mr.
Madam
Glover?
President, yeah, well, I am a huge fan of field trips, so I don't really have a problem. And you have a group that's choosing, and families, and the faculty and the group chooses to support it. That's fine. I mean, if they don't want to go, they don't. Then the field trip would die. But before the recession, so I'm old, but I do remember before the recession, these trips used to be overnight. I remember particularly my son, when he hit 6th grade, they used to do oceanography, and they would stay in a hotel. And then my younger son hit 6th grade, and it was like, no, you're sleeping on a bus. And I think if you're there, you take advantage of things. So maybe before, I don't know, but I would imagine probably years ago, maybe they did stay overnight. I don't know.
That would
Some
be
of this,
pre 5 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
would be. So anyway,
And I don't know, is that,
I mean, for myself, just being a sponsor on trips, I mean, and, it is a turnaround, that way, and it's doable. I know, with them, they're meeting early in the morning at the park, and I'm sure Sossaman's group as well is. I just know they're electing to spend the day, the majority of that day at school on Thursday, having to travel out, wanting to avoid traveling at night as much as possible. Each group feels differently about that. Everybody has their own opinion about, is it better on the charter bus in the evening, in the afternoon? I've done both myself. I know I've had many nights where I sat up just right next to that driver so that there was no clunking as they move over onto the side of the road. So
I did that 2 years ago.
when I've seen from a
I was that parent on that bus 2 years ago, and I'm like trying to fall asleep, and I hear thud, thud, thud. I'm like, you awake? I get it.
So, I mean, I've seen both sides of that. I can tell you that I know from looking at their agenda, they have fulfilled their time with leadership activities throughout it. If, you know, the time, yes, there is time that they will spend at the park, but I can tell you,
And
seeing those elements, they've integrated leadership opportunities, bonding opportunities, skill building opportunities, reflection pieces for their kids to take back when they do come out.
well, and I mean, I agree with Mrs. Kaler, and I think the benefit of it is that you do get to spend the day in the park, and I think that's great. But I do agree with Mrs. Kaler. I am concerned about the pricing that's listed because the conference itself is $80. And I want to say a park hopper is at least like $120
Food, you have to get food too.
per easily. So
I can tell you that going onto the website, the Disney Youth website, they give them a different discount that's broken down. So, you know, for them, it's student hotels were $92.65 per night with a 17% tax at $108.40 per night times $216 per room. The students are sleeping 3 to 4 per room, 62. Let me go. Breakfast was included with them. Chaperones, hotels, they're paying their way on that piece. The charter bus was $3,410. I can't speak on, maybe there was a cheaper price Sossaman found on the charter bus. Don't know if they're taking a charter bus or if they elected to take a school bus too. I'm not sure on the driver. With obviously overnight, you have to pay for the driver as well for that overnight time period. So that could have been the increase on money there between the $3,000 for the charter bus and the $34.10. But I mean that piece, the park hopper pass here was $183 is what was given to me for them for those 2 days, which was that Friday, Saturday they come home. That was the deal that they had talked with Disney with electing to do the leadership piece.
okay.
President Reese, members of the board, I would like to say that I do caution us on this a little bit. If we make an individual choice on one field trip over another, then I think that it puts us in a little bit of a difficult situation. What I would like to recommend is that we meet as a board and discuss the procedures and expectations of field trips as we move forward, so everybody knows before it comes to the board what the expectations are as far as time for activities, as far as costs that are limited. But I'm a little cautious about saying yes and no to individual groups or others. I think it's a bigger conversation than just what's going on at Williams Field today that I would like to explore further.
Dr. Thomas, and I thoroughly agree with you, and I know that I was not here for the field trip work study that you had in November. I was kind of hoping some of that was kind of hashed out as far as policies, and because, again, and I've said this before, not to you, sorry, I'm not pointing just at you, that these field trips are discussed at a very low level, and then they are gone to teachers, and then they go to the next admin and the superintendent, and before they get to us, they've been, I hope that they have been thoroughly hashed out in every way so that we up here don't look like the bad guys when we question something. So again, I agree that we need to make sure that our expectations of field trips are thoroughly laid out in some kind of policy that is done. I too am a field trip fan, and I have my girls are doing a Disneyland trip at the end in the dance, and so I get the excitement over it. So yeah. Anyways.
No, and I agree. And like I said, I think Disney, they do a great job, and I think there's a lot of value with what they offer. I agree. These are concerns. They've been ongoing concerns, and I know you guys are new, and we have a really new board up here too. But in my opinion, I would intend on approving this trip. I'm going to say solely because that flyer went out ahead of time. And it's already been given to the students, and it's already been given to the parents to fill out permission slips and to do a deposit due 12 days ago. But I have a concern with that. So I don't think it's really fair, in my opinion, to not do that. But I think that these were, it's not just this particular trip, it's a precedence there. And we see a lot of these trips, and quite honestly, when we start asking some of these questions, they end up getting pulled, they get turned to a roundabout type thing. So I agree with you, and we've had lots of discussions on field trips and educational value and things like that. So thank you for answering my questions. They have clarified them. A big part of it was not using those student council funds. And I wanted to share my concerns with a trip of this length for a 3-day or a 3-hour workshop. So,
can I ask a follow-up question? So I was part of the Gilbert School District Highland High School Band. We went over to Disneyland. It was awesome. So I fully support this as well. But part of that included late night travel on the bus. So did that analysis ever take place? So we drive over Thursday night, do the 3-hour workshop Friday, give the kids a chance to be in the park Saturday, and then leave at 6 p.m. Why stay the night and then return the Sunday morning?
And I apologize for the dates mix up on there. It's a leave on the Thursday afternoon, attend the conference on the Friday morning, and then they stay over because they're there part of the conference, part of the day. They leave actually Saturday.
Thursday and Friday. You're right. Sorry. Yeah.
There was a conversation with the students about in regards to what they'll be doing in the in-between. And as I said, though the conference is approximately 3 hours that Disney presents, the other side of it is everything from leadership skills, bonding experiences, and then just flat out having fun as well. There's that element too as well.
Absolutely.
That just kids and have fun. You work hard, you do a lot of events, you're asked to do a lot, you live on campus a lot of times. This is a good opportunity for us to combine leadership, to combine a trip, to combine an opportunity for our council to come together. And so that was the length of time, was more so worked into some of those other extra elements that are going to be for leadership and development.
In reference to this, I agree with Mrs. Kaler that this board should not be having this conversation, okay? So there must have been some checks and balances that did not follow through here, that somebody didn't check dates, that somebody didn't check when things went out. So I hope this is the last of things like this, because I trust when it comes to here that all of this has been taken care of, and these conversations about overnight stay, all this has been resolved. So please, I don't want to see this again, in reference to this. And so when things come forward to us in the future, that this conversation has taken place before us.
And just real quick, my other concern was that it was stated that this was a reward, and I certainly, we're in the business of educating kids, and I think you can do that and have fun as well, but that immediately puts a red flag up. We should not be offering trips as rewards to, if you do this, we'll go on a trip here. That's kind of not what we're about. We're a school district. We're about educating the kids, and I get that there is an educational value there, but I really don't, that really concerns me when we start phrasing things like that. A reward for doing well, let's have a pizza party. Let's not go on a trip to Disneyland. So that's concerning. So
I can speak to that if you'd like me to. So that element came about with some of our administration, that I was contacted by one of our assistants that discussed that with me. When we looked into the piece, how it was phrased with students, was the idea of this piece, because this started back when they went into the student government camp. The idea is that other school districts were going to this, other school districts have been involved with this, that the focus was on the first quarter within homecoming week, what needed to be done for our campus as leaders there, every element that leads up into that planning piece. It wasn't, if we're going to discuss going, we need to take care of these elements first. So let's not focus in on, wanting to go here yet. We need to take care of Williamsfield. We need to take care of the school. If we do what we need to do, we take care, we get the type of fundraising done for the entire campus that generally generates from the homecoming dance, those pieces. Yes, we can have this conversation and start talking about going on a leadership conference, but we need to take care of our campus first. We need to make sure that we generate, because there's amount of revenue that comes in from homecoming that in return gets used to be able to support the programs on campus, like many of them do. That's
Absolutely.
part of that role of student government, many roles, but one of the hats that they wear. So I can tell you that's how those elements were presented, because I asked the same question.
Yeah, I would
So it wasn't-
caution that type of,
Correct, and as we did, and as alarming as I'm sure it was brought up, I addressed it as well, because hearing those pieces, wanting to make sure that it wasn't, if you do this, then you only will get this.
Right.
How it was presented to me and told to me is that it was, let's take care of the school and the entity that we are responsible for as elected students here. Then we will finish those pieces, and if we can accomplish certain goals, then we'll have the conversation as a student council government to say, okay, this is something that I know many of you wanted to do. Let's now go forward and take care of those pieces to put some elements in place.
yeah, so yeah, I would caution those types of comments and conversations, especially when you tie it into something like that, because your homecoming revenue is generated by your students. And so the sounds of it is we get to go to Disneyland if we make a whole lot of money. And that is no bueno. So it sends the wrong message. It's not what we're about as a school district. And I think that could be misconstrued as it has been. So yeah, I would certainly caution that, and because then you have other groups like, hey, student council got to go on Disney because they got so much money. So what can we do so we can go to Disneyland? And that's just kind of not the
And I'm sorry,
repetitive.
It's only a financial obligation, because when I had discussed it, it wasn't about the financial. Sure, there's an element that plays into that we're discussing, because that's where the lines got blurred on communication. But it was more than a financial piece. It was everything, all the elements that led up, and some of the new events that we had on campus during that is that there was a lot more planning. I can say this year than at least in previous years, and new events that were being done on campus. So it was really a well-rounded week, and the elements leading up to that week.
And I just want to make it clear, those students in student council work very hard, and it's very much so appreciated. This conversation is not about them. It's not about if they've earned it, if they deserve it, or anything. They work really hard. Like Mr. Witovich said, it's a bigger conversation, and it's just unfortunate that it's this particular one that we're having the conversation. It is a much larger conversation. It's not Williamsfield. It's not student council. It is a district conversation, and you're right. We need to be having this, but it's something that we needed to speak about as we needed to. So
President Reese, with that being said, has there been a second on this motion?
we don't have to have a separate motion because we were doing that, right? Yes, okay, so we have not. Yes.
So it needs to be second?
Well, so I'll move that we approve item 7.7, student travel.
I support.
Is that the right one? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Any other questions, comments on any of the other travel? That was my main concern.
The Super 8, can we make sure there's no bed bugs before we send these kids there? Go to the website and check it out. Thank you.
Check TripAdvisor. Any other? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Tannenbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Tannenbaum. All right. That was a really good conversation. Thank you. Sorry, it needed to happen.
President Reese, members of the board, so my direction is to bring back a work study on field trips and the practices for field trips. Would that be appropriate for the board?
Yes, and I think in the work study, we need to review our current policy. We need to have discussion. I think Mrs. Corey would be a good person to have there. And so that way we can review the whole thing.
Thank you.
Can I just also maybe add that I know that Mrs. Reach deals with the field trip paperwork and just making sure all that's like to the T when it comes her way, so including that.
So just the policy, the forms, the procedure. We'll talk about that. Okay. All right, we will move on. Thank you. 9.1, we have our monthly governing financial report. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Holland? Mr. Glover, okay. You look like you did. Okay. So 9.2, I move that we approve the 2018-2019 Higley Unified School District High School Course Guide.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? I want to thank Dr. Mallerwine. I had a lot of questions, a lot of conversation on the course guides, and he took the time to meet with me, made some changes. I appreciate that, and notice those in the updated. Mr. Glover, I see it in your face.
Well, I just have a few comments and things. I did see that the graduation fee increased from $25 to $50, and I asked Dr. Thomason, and he gave me a very good explanation, which was that it's in the air conditioning at ASU, it's an increased cost, and that's perfectly reasonable. I think everybody's probably happy with that.
So real quick, let me interrupt, sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Thornock, we used to hold graduation on our football fields. Last year, we moved it to Wells Fargo Arena. We could handle more people. We didn't have people passing out from the heat. So, okay, sorry, Mr. Glover, just wanted to catch him up.
That's okay. And then I saw that the parking fees were increased, and Dr. Thompson and I talked about it. I just, for my 2 cents worth, I'm not a huge fan of exorbitant parking fees, because I think some of these kids are saving us the cost of driving them to school and having a crossing guard and all that. So it's going up, but we don't make our elementary schools or middle schools pay for, the restriping of parking lots and stuff. So to see it go up, I don't know, something to consider. I don't know. I think it's just the cost of being a school district. It's not that much anyway, but they're doing us a favor by driving themselves to school.
I had that same question, because my thing is if we're going to increase fees, I want to know where that money's going. What is it being used for?
Well, that's a good point. I asked Dr. Thomason, and that money is going to repurpose, and it's going right to the
And
right
security
to that parking
guards.
lot and the security, and when it's needed in the parking lot and stuff. So that's fair. I can live with that.
President Reese, members of the board, just so the full board knows that parking lot fees go in a specific account that can only be used for parking lot allocations.
Speed bumps, speed humps, speed barriers, I don't know, something. So,
Do you want to talk about parking lots, or you want my next thing?
Yeah, I can, Mr. Clerk.
No, I don't. No, if you had something to add, I don't.
Security guards, it goes for maintenance and upkeep of the golf carts that become expensive. They break down, and they help us out with safety. So that's kind of only place we can really gather those funds. And we didn't want to raise it too much, so we kind of had a happy medium, and so.
It's fine. It's not my preference, but I can live with it. But do stay, because I had some. So math. I was reading through the math, and this is just maybe something to think about. And I know the math teachers are. They're not going to like me for saying this. But we at the middle school, if they're taking an advanced math, we do give them credit. But then we also require them to take 4 years of high school math. And so my question, I guess, as somebody who has a kid who's exceeded, he's 2 years beyond math, he has to go somewhere else to get his math. I mean, do we want these kids to take 4 years of math for the sake of taking 4 years of math, or do we want them to complete a certain level like Calc AB and Calc BC, and then they could be done, and then they could take an elective? It would be my preference to give them credit and have that count. I think it's, what you
I had the
guys
same
are-
question. No,
Okay. Well, if you want to talk about that a little bit, I don't know that we can solve it. I mean, I'm happy to leave things the way they are, but maybe thinking down the road for next year or something to consider that, and I'm sure you have, but your thoughts, please.
Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Thomason, that's a good question. I think it needs some explaining. Right now, we are giving high school credit for middle school math, and what we are seeing is that the intent was that for a completer class, the end of course class as a senior to be Calc AB or Calc ABBC. And for a kid that is even further along than that, we do have a statistics class. And what we're seeing though is some of our kids are deciding to kind of, for lack of a more professional term, pack it in senior year and not take a math and not take a rigorous course. And that there's a gap year that falls in there that is negatively affecting them. We're also seeing a trend when California colleges with some publications are coming out that is then early admittance is then being revoked because they're being admitted off of a junior transcript, and then they look at the senior and they're like, what happened? The other thing is now the CCIR requirements that are going into our AZ Merit and our state labels, or our school labels, are giving you additional points for those higher level math courses. So right now, where we run into your situation with your children is a 2-year accelerated child coming out of, say, our HPAL to Sossaman. They would enter high school with honors algebra 2 as a freshman, and then they would move into honors pre-calc. Then if they continue to excel, they could go into Calc ABBC. If they were kind of a middle of the road calc, they would take a lower level calc, which would be Calc AB. Then they could take the other BC as a senior, but we also have statistics. So we do have classes that our high schools can offer at that higher level. And one of the tasks that I kind of took to heart that I heard the school board tell me is that we want to be a nationally recognized institution. And to do that, we have to up some of the rigor and some of the requirements. And we have a community of kids that quite frankly should be taking those higher level classes when they get to seniors. We also have looked at, what does that freshman look like? Well, that freshman looks like a stronger freshman if you take a math as a senior, because what we're seeing and what we've heard from ASU and when we've had some articulation with them is that they're probably going to have those kids retake calc because they want their calc teachers to teach them. It's one of those kind of things when they move into these programs. So we looked at that and we felt that to be a nationally recognized, if we want to look at the Stevensons of the world, the Nutriers of the world, we need our kids to take 4 years of high school math. Now, will they still get the middle school, will they still get high school credit for those middle school courses? We will. So you might have a kid that gets 6 math credits when he leaves high school. To me, that's going to make him more marketable for a high-level university, probably open up scholarship opportunities. I think it's ethically, as an educator, it's something that I felt strongly about. I talked to our principals. We were all in agreement. This was definitely a team decision, but that was the thought process behind why we have elected to do that. And I think we can compete nationally if we put the right structures in place and the right expectations in place, because we have a community that can answer that call.
I just want to interject a little bit. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Glover. And then I have a gal that's ahead, and she took I can't even say it.
Multivariable.
Thank you, whatever.
What is
like
differential,
like beyond.
We do that as well.
I mean, it's crazy math. However, she too, I kind of, I said, why are you taking math this year? And she was really happy to take math because a lot of the STEM degrees, you need that, keep your brain going, because you don't want that gap year and going into college without doing some type of math. And so I get why we do it, and I only wish that there was some kind of college credit going with this math class, and I talked to Dr. Thomason about that and understand why we don't have that at this time. Because if a teacher can teach that math, they're going to go to a university and teach that math for a lot more money. So I get that. So, but anyways, I know that they have lots of different options for our seniors as far as math goes, but just keeping their brains moving.
And we looked at a senior class, a 4-year math class called college mathematics, which is really an algebra 1, algebra 2 blend repeater, which we can offer now for dual enrollment. That is recognized for kids that go on the humanities path. So we feel like we have, and that's really the name of the game, is options for everyone. We want to have as many options for everyone as possible because not one kid is the same. And so we've really tried to look at diverse pathways, and there's something for everyone. So for children that are not going to go the STEM route and are not interested in the sciences, but are the humanities and the social science and the the English classes and the liberal arts degree, we do have a 4th-year math that fits in for them that colleges will recognize on that pathway.
Right. Yeah, I guess I would just say that if you're talking about options, if you gave them senior year to pick, I mean, some might pick to take differential equations, but they might pick something else that they would not have. It's not math. I mean, how much math do we want them to know? I guess, we're making them take 4 years. It seems to me, for the sake of taking 4 years. If the kid was going into engineering, then they should take that. But anyway, if you guys have discussed it and that's
What we were seeing honestly is a trend of kids wanting 3 courses senior year and not wanting the 4th course. We're seeing them wanting to come in and leave early. We weren't seeing them pick up a photography class or something, enriching. That was sort of the trend we were seeing.
And Mr. Glover, we had the same discussion because I had that same concern. And I don't know if you saw the initial course guide and then this one. We had talked about what year it was going to be required, because the initial one was affecting our sophomores. So I'm like, wait, they're sophomores going to be juniors, and then we're going to change the game on them. And they've earned their one of their high school math credits in 8th grade, and they're going to be juniors, and then we're changing the game on them and tell them, wait, no, you have to. So, and thank you, they made that adjustment. So that conversation can happen with our 8th graders right now. So yes, we can say, and we can have proactive communication, and we can say you're getting a high school math credit, but just know in high school you're still going to have to take 4 years. So just kind of plan on it, because before it was sold to the kids and when I say sold to the kids, it's because they were in that advanced piece of it. It was, I can get this math credit, get it out of the way, I don't have to take it my senior year. And so that was exciting to these kids in 8th grade. So that conversation's changing, but we're changing it prior to them coming instead of changing the game while they're there. So
it'll be the class, the graduating class of 22. Thank you.
Because I had that same concern. Mm-hmm.
I can go on for a while. Well, this is just another oddball thing to think about. I know that the state does require an unfunded mandate for the citizenship exam, which is, whatever, if that's what they think kids need to know. I mean, I would think that any government exam is going to be more difficult than a naturalization test. I hope it is. I mean, I've never seen one that isn't more difficult, but if that's what the state is thinking, that's all our kids need to really know about government is that, then, I don't think we have, I don't think you could do a teacher teaching 5 classes of this, but you could think about maybe the guys to government teachers if there was some kind of government service learning thing. I think, based on recent elections, our young people are quite involved and quite knowledgeable, and we can give credit for government in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to look the same way the government classes we took when we were kids. But you could probably make a class, I would think. A government teacher was interested. You could probably do something like that and give a different type of government credit. That's something I've been noodling around for years, because they take government really in 7th and 8th grade eighth grade quite a bit. They get it in U.S. history, and all throughout elementary. It's mostly, American history and government. So, I mean, I feel like if we gave these kids, our seniors, and I'm not talking to Higley, I'm just talking across the state. If we gave them the final exam, they could probably pass it on the first day, a lot of times, because it's the same sorts of things. I'm not talking about AP, but a standard government exam, they have been through it again. So something that's a different.
Speaking of the civics test. You're speaking of the civics.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm just combining the two. Actually, is what I've done. I'm saying that the state seems to think that all these kids need to know about government is to be able to pass a civics test, which they can pass and do pass in high numbers in eighth grade. And so I'm not a big fan of having that test anyway. But if we're talking about government, I'm just trying to think differently about government class, maybe as a weird option. We're talking about options for kids. That could be.
Our seniors have to take a semester of U.S. government as seniors, and so that's really all that state is requiring and it's coupled with economics.
Right. No, I know they have to take government, and what I'm saying is we could offer a different type of government class. Not this year. I'm just down the road. I've never talked about course offerings and stuff. I just want to throw that out there.
President Reese, members of the board, we can take different options that are available and allowed by the state, and so I think that is a great opportunity to give students more options.
Yeah, you can't change things if you don't start the conversation.
Dr. Mallerwine, I think we've had this conversation before, and I've had it with Dr. Thomason too, and someday I hope to see sign language on our high school course guide. And I know that that's something maybe we're still working on behind the scenes, and I just think that I know some of our other schools around here do offer it, and I think it would be beneficial if we could get something going somewhere. Pilot program. Just my 2 cents.
Any other questions or comments on the high school course guide?
Yeah, I'll just add. I don't have anything. I'm fully supportive. I just wanted to mention some of those things. That's all. So I should have probably prefaced with that. So
something that we haven't discussed, but it's definitely something our social studies coach would look into, and I think. Social studies, if you look, I added pathways in the course guide. And our social studies is the most limited pathway. So I think it's a good suggestion. It's something that we have to check with what the state requirements are, but I think that is definitely something to pursue. So I appreciate that suggestion.
We did also talk about getting that AP capstone pathway in the course guide.
That will be in there next year, which is one of those things. We're still 3 years out, and if you guys noticed, I added quite a bit of language in the beginning of it. It was language that should be in there that for some reason had disappeared over the years. So I don't anticipate our course guide really having any major changing moving forward, subtle things. And I may have to bring something to you next time because there's one more thing we probably need to add. But yeah, there was a lot of work done to tighten up our language and make it more user-friendly, more parent-friendly, and actually just language that should have been in there once. So.
And I just want to say I appreciate you and your team looking, and we're adding a bunch of CTE, and I think these courses can be very successful here, and I'm excited to see that, and that's something we've talked about. And when we talk about offerings, we've been so limited, so I'm excited to see that coming. Do you have a question on here? Okay, hold on.
I can stall for you if you want. I know that the course description book is a huge work, and thank you to everybody who worked on it. And I know it's going to be a huge sigh of relief when everything is all done. I know it's very, very, very time consuming.
Our high school principals put a lot of time on this as well, and our middle school was not as cumbersome, but our high school principals did put a lot of time in behind the scenes with me, a lot of conversations involved. We actually would we brought teachers in to hear their input on some things as well. So it was really a team effort.
Can I ask about, so looking into the science, and this is kind of related to the math question that Mr. Glover brought up earlier. So one thing that was added was AP Physics C will be split into mechanics and electricity and magnetism. Is that a senior year course or is that a junior year? And the reason I'm asking it, let me just preface, talking about this 4-year math requirement, if any of you've sat in an AP Physics course, that could probably qualify as a math course, you know, as opposed to, I love stats, and actually encouraging students to take that prior to college is great, but if a student doesn't want to take stats, but they're taking AP Physics and magnetism, it might be interesting to look at saying, could that be like a dual check mark? You know what I'm saying? Count for the science requirement, but count for the math requirement as well. But I don't know if it's a junior level course, and this probably is an irrelevant question.
So to answer that question, it could be mechanics can be for juniors, but the magnetism, electricity, and magnetism one would only be seniors. And we really are at the will of the state, and if they would approve that as a math credit, and I don't believe they do. But what we have done in the past with our AP Physics C is students could have, when they take that course, they can elect to take the mechanics AP test or the electricity and magnetism test. And what we were finding is that we could expand it and give the kids actually more physics credit and actually set them up for more success on the AP test. And so we sat down with actually both physics teachers, which are much smarter than I on the subject, and we went with their recommendation on what to do with that course. But I don't believe the state will recognize that as a math credit, even though you're correct, it takes a ton of mathematics in the physics.
However, some schools will take it as a math course,
right,
which is interesting.
And that was my point, is that if it fulfills...
It's up to the college, and they change their minds, too, so they change it. I mean, there's a lot of colleges
we'd be willing to recognize it as a math, but
it's
maybe
the
a discussion item for down the line.
And President Reese, members of the board, I've also asked Dr. Mellerwine to present in January on the course sequences for the language arts, the math, the science. What else was there, Dr. Mellerwine?
We're going to go through all 4 core sequences, and I want to explain to you guys kind of the options we are giving kids moving in and out of our 3 tracks, which is standard, rigorous, and highly rigorous. We're going to go also through our CTE sequences because they have they've changed a little bit in the last few years. I think it's time for us to discuss it. And so we'll go through those 5 areas, unless you guys want me to add another one.
No,
but those are really the big 5 that can...
So with the new work study format, we'll have more opportunities to discuss things at greater lengths.
I just wanted to note, because I did find it in here, and I was put it in the back of my head, that I'm thankful that Higley has biology now as a freshman option, because some of the kids were not having the math to take the chem, and it wasn't. So good on you for fixing and making sure that was done.
What we looked at was the algebra. It was really essential for the chemistry, but for the honors chemistry, algebra 2 was essential. And so I just had one thing that the counselors didn't tell you is that they are really a lot of the keepers of the pathways, because they are recommending pathway. We just met today, and they know that if a kid's taking honors chemistry, it needs to be concurrent with honors algebra 2, or algebra 2 has to be a prerequisite, because we want to set our kids up for success. And then algebra 1, we think that they need to take geometry concurrently with chemistry and have completed algebra 1. So that's, to answer your question, yes, we did that intentionally.
I think that was happening at Williamsfield, but maybe not at Higley at the same time. So I'm glad that it's...
Yeah, we're trying to streamline our practices.
Yes.
We found that we were a little bit of independent contractors in some things, and it's going to take some time, but we're very much streamlining our practices. And that's a testament to our 2 principals that get along very well, which makes it a lot easier to work with.
Any other? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. I move that we approve the 2018-2019 Higley Unified School District Middle School Course Guide.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Again, same type thing. Sat down with Dr. Mallerwine and had some really good conversations and discussions. So, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Whew. Now the counselors are like, okay, now we got to do registration. So, We're going to go on to 9.4. I move that we waive our second read and adopt an amendment for policy JFB, open enrollment.
Support.
And Mr. Glover, I know you had a question on this, and I think it got answered. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. It was just to clarify that a principal could not override superintendent. So superintendent does A, and if A is met, then principal can override. So perfectly good. Thank you, Ms. Good. Thank you, Dr. Thomason.
Anyone have any other questions or comments regarding this particular amendment?
I do. I have a question, and maybe Ms. Good or Dr. Thomason can help me. So I'm just trying to think of the mechanics. So the superintendent, let's say hypothetically, identifies 2 spots that are open for out-of-district students, but 4 students apply or want to be admitted. Under admission criteria, it seems to just focus exclusively on behavioral, whether there's been an expulsion or some other record of excessive absences, things like that. What's the procedure for comparing academic or fine arts or other?
President Reese, Mr. Thornock, we specifically addressed that in cabinet, and it is date and time stamped, so it is a first come, first served basis, with all things being equal, or there's none of those secondary concerns that would prohibit a student from being eligible to join our district. It is on a first come, first served basis.
And I think, Mr. Thornock, to maybe clarify if I understand, you're asking, it's not a matter of comparing. It would be first come, first served. We look at it, they've had expulsions, we're going to deny that, so that spot stays open. It's not comparing all 4 and going, which one do we want? Is that what you were kind of asking? Because that's what it seemed like to me.
Yes, and really I was worried that when faced with the difficulty of 4 students, we could only admit 2. The only admission criteria outlined here is behavioral. And so I just want to make sure the superintendent has that flexibility to analyze other factors too.
Yeah, so it would, like he said, it would be on an individual basis, so it wouldn't be comparing them. It would be that we would deny open enrollment for this one. And then kind of, what else do we have?
That clarifies, thank you.
Okay. Because that's what it seemed like you were asking, so. Any other questions? Come on. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. 9.5. I move that we approve the first read of the amendment of policy GCCG, professional support staff voluntary transfer of accrued leave.
Second.
Is that you, Mr. Thornock?
Yes.
Okay. Well, now it's that spot. I used to not be able to tell Allie either. All right, any questions on this one? It's a first read.
Yes, Madam President. Not maybe a question, but maybe a comment for Ms. Martins. Okay, I have 2 things, so I'm going to try to remember them both. But one is, I think we'd be better off with like a sick bank that everybody contributes to equally. So the way this reads, basically, I think, if I'm reading the right one, is if you get ill, Ms. Kaler, I can give you time, or I can not give you time. Whereas other places, we all contribute a sick day, and if you need it, you get it, and when the sick bank runs out of days, then everybody that's in the bank takes a day. That seems better, because I don't want to be part of a death panel. Somebody's, it seems, I think that's probably a better system. I know that you didn't create this policy, so I'm not.
No, but I've been at locations elsewhere where it's been something similar to that, but then you have an individual, typically it's the administrators or the HR person, who then gets to decide how much time does person A, B gets versus the other person. So then it becomes a whole other dilemma. So I know in the past, I have not personally been a fan of donation of sick leave or a bucket of, but here we already had the policy, so we were just clarifying, and we felt, and we also polled surrounding districts around us, that there should be a minimum amount of time that you're employed with us to request it. But I've seen districts in the past where I came from try to do this big area, but then it got into complications of, you know, that person A might need everything that's already in that sick leave bank. And so how do you designate and tell them you only get this much time and put parameters around that versus allowing individuals to decide if they want to donate on their own? It's managed a little bit different versus, you know, for lack of a better word, me playing that higher power.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't think we have to solve it. I think this is a better thing for the HEA to maybe be asked if they're happy with it, then that's fine. The other thing is, that I'm not making light of this, but the very last line in there, it says donated leave in excess of that needed by recipient will not be returned by the donor. So, in other words, Ms. Kaler, if I gave you 20 days and you got healthy and you only needed 10 days, I'm happy for you, but I just lost 10 extra days. That seems, I mean, I would totally, can't we just give it back to them if somebody doesn't need it? I mean, maybe we should change that. Or maybe the HEA can, you guys can work with the HEA or something, but.
That is something that we could look into. We didn't look at that particular part of the language. The issue that came up was a sudden increase in ask of transfer of leave in various circumstances. And so when I was reviewing the policy for an individual that we had that made a request, I was actually surprised, like I said, that there wasn't a minimum time. So then we looked at the surrounding districts, polled them, but that's something we can look at as a possibility too.
And I would just add, you know, if you had it doesn't have to be administrators, you know, it could be a committee of people that evaluate the request to use the sick bank. Anyway, I think we can do better, I guess, is what I'm saying. But that's fine to put the policy where it is, but for the future.
It is. It's first read. So, Ms. Good, the motion I made was just to approve the first read, so it will still come back as a second, or, because I didn't waive the second read, or do we just leave it?
You can choose to, well, you can do it either way. You can withdraw your motion and make a new motion to waive the second read if that's what you want to do. If you just approve a first read, then it will come back at the next meeting for
The second read and approval. That's what I thought. Okay, so my motion was to just approve the first read. I did not waive the second. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion carries 5-0. 9.6, I move that we approve the first read of the amendment of policy IJJ, which is textbook and supplementary material selection and adoption. Okay. Any comments and questions on this? I think that there's. Mr. Glover?
Right, this is the last thing I have written down. So, there's a part in here, and Ms. Good, you can help clarify. It says, you know, that it has to comply with the open meeting law, but maybe, I mean, when we're talking about the textbook, I gotta flip in between here. So the textbook committee, where's the line in here?
It's in the first paragraph.
It's first paragraph. Thanks. Yeah, meetings of textbook selection committees are to be conducted in compliance with the open meeting law. So, in other words, usually, I mean, I don't know, Dr. Schellenberg, so if you had a bunch of teachers, I mean, how would they then, if they were on the committee, they couldn't talk to other teachers ever about the textbook stuff?
what this is saying is that it has to be an open meeting to the public. So in the past, these were just closed to the teachers, administrators doing the selection. Now there are open meetings that had to be announced so that if public wants to attend, they may. But they don't really participate, but they're able to observe.
Okay, that's fair, but what about the part about more than two people talking, right? How does that fit in?
That's not going to fit in there because
Okay.
the committee is not making a final decision. So they wouldn't be consulting on their position for a final decision.
Okay, I didn't want to put them in a position of jeopardy, so thank you.
That is actually in the statute with respect to textbook selection committees. But the conversation would be all right because it's not a final decision.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just want to bring back a bad memory. No, just having this definition very clearly laid out, I thought it was very good so that we can all be sure what a textbook versus a supplemental book versus supplemental materials. Just thankful for that clarification there.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. 9.7, I move that we approve the new job description for Title I Parent Liaison.
Second.
So to clarify, this is a brand new position that would be located at Gateway.
Yes, that's correct. It is part of the Title I funds, and to stay compliant, we had to create this. So it'll be housed at Gateway. However, it will be available in a resource to our other Title I schools, so Santan as well as Power.
Okay, and it was part-time if the...
Correct.
Okay. That was a discussion that Dr. Thomason and I had.
Same. I was glad that we have this opportunity to hire this person into that. Now knowing that Gateway and Power Ranch may have that ability to use them a little bit, maybe too. So.
Yes. Any other comments or questions regarding?
Mrs. Martin, this job description, how was it formulated?
So in terms of this particular job description, we worked with the Title I coordinator, our assistant director, Erin Harris, Sherry Richards as the director of elementary ed, and then human resources, and we reviewed it to make sure that it fit within the guidelines and parameters of what the Title I funds were, as well as it then fit the responsibilities and duties and models of what HUSD promotes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
Maybe just help clarify. So it says supervision received as the supervisor. I was just curious, let's say we have someone in this position who is not doing an adequate job. Who actually ultimately would make the decision to terminate them or hire someone else? I just didn't understand that.
I'm actually going to defer that to Sherry. I don't know it's unusual because of the different areas, so there's kind of a mixture of individuals who'll be working with them.
Need to go up there? I don't know. So since this person would be working out of Gateway, then the administration there would work directly to make sure the duties that were assigned were completed with Mr. Harris's support as well. If this individual goes to Santan and Power, those people would have input as well.
Any other questions? Mr. Thornack?
Well, that answered my question. Thank you. I guess I would just want to reiterate, I could see down the road some liaison saying, oh, I speak for the district or I speak for the administration or something. So I just would want to reiterate for whoever comes into that position that it's not quite a spokesman for the district.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions, comments regarding that? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. So we have student travel on here as well. We have student travel on here. And it does. It is a first read, so we can review it and request other changes because it's a first read. Correct, Mrs. Good?
Can I speak?
This is better. What you can do is just table it. If you think you're going to want to make more changes, that would make more sense than doing a first read and pushing it off. I think you'd be better off to just table the matter.
Okay, so Mr. Witovich is making the motion to table the first read and possible adoption of amendment policy IJOA for field trips, and Mrs. Kaler seconded that. Any other questions or concerns regarding that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. All right, and so board docs is weird, so I'm struggling here. I'm trying to get used to it because I have conditional contract award and then I have contract award. So I have two different documents here. Are we being asked to approve a conditional or are we being asked to approve a contract? I have it phrased two separate ways.
I think that's for you, Dr. Fowler. I think, well, I don't know. I thought that was a condition upon our approval. So that's the way I was interpreting it.
President Reese, members of the board, what you have before you is the procurement process working with SFB, and that has been approved for Higley Traditional Academy, and so we're requesting our board to ratify that, and then we would go out to follow the process, in terms of that's the vendor that the state's approved through their procurement process, and so we're asking for you to, it's conditionally approved because you have to approve it as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hopefully that clarifies.
Yeah, it's just in two different, we've got to get used to board docs and different things, so it's just different. So then I move that we approve the contract for HTA weatherization IFB 17-09-17.
Thank you.
Second.
Any comments or questions regarding the contract?
Yes, Dr. Fowler, come back.
Don't go anywhere.
Just looking at these final numbers, 298,000 versus 405,000, does it concern you at all that there's such a big gap in that? Is that typical as what you see when you see different bids?
The procurement process that the state runs as it relates to construction concerns me immensely. My preference would be to put out an RFP, although that's not the procurement method that the state allows us to use. And so, yes, and we have worked with this particular vendor, and hopefully they've learned some things from our past experiences. But yeah, it's a concern, and we would much prefer an RFP process, and we'll continue to advocate for that at the state level. But they're holding pretty firm to the process that requires a hard bid, which results in this type of a scenario. So, you know, I do feel though that our liaison with the SFB is pretty active in terms of he's come out to our sites and he understands our concerns with that. And so I do think that they hear and listen to what we've expressed, although they're still kind of holding to this process. So.
Can you tell me if this was the same company that we used for Higley
Yes,
roof? It is. And so therefore your concerns are very valid. Thank you.
So Dr. Fowler, for Mr. Thornock, can you just kind of review School Facilities Board, what it is, what the weatherization is, just real quick, high level. So Mr. Thornock, because you've done an absolute excellent job on getting a lot of our buildings repaired and cleaned up and maintained with School Facilities Board money, but Mr. Thornock wouldn't be aware of all that.
Yeah, so going way back, it's regarding legislation that happened in 1998 that was only fully funded for 1 year, and then half of the funding the second year, and then almost basically went away, and then many years without any funding at all. And this is kind of the state's latest attempt to provide some support, albeit very limited. Estimates are as high as $1 billion of repairs needed for our school facilities, and right now the amount is somewhere between it's millions of dollars, like 25, and so it's limited. Fortunately for our district. Last year, our number was a little bit over $5 million of that pot, and it varies because it rolls from one fiscal year to the next. So it is a building renewal grant is what it's titled, and we basically have to make application through the State Facilities Board. I know different groups continue to advocate for an increases to that amount, and numbers increasing it to $300 million each year. And it's frustrating because there's lots of needs and limited funds, and so it takes a lot of work to get items on the agenda and get them approved. But we continue to work through that. I know that at our last meeting, a weatherization assessment for Coronado was approved. And the challenge continues to be just lack of funds because the needs are just so great throughout the state. But we have become pretty experienced at being able to get money and have items approved through the SFB. So we continue to work through that process. Our biggest challenge, and everybody else in the state's challenge, will continue to be lack of funding from the state to actually address those needs. So we'll continue to work in that regard. Does that kind of say it?
Yeah, thank you very much. Although I had the same concern as Mrs. Kaler that this bid was 75% of what the other two were, and so we'll watch that closely.
They're going to have to do what they said they're going to do. So for that price, so.
Could I ask President Reese that the motion be amended to identify the contractor to whom the contract is being awarded?
Yes, I will amend my motion to approve the contract award for Higley Traditional Academy Phase 1 Weatherization IFB number 170917 to GCON. That's okay. Just making sure. I'm looking at two different things. So to GCON.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Future agenda items left on our screens today. We have future agenda items. In January, we will be doing talking about special education program reorganization, Power Wrench and Centennial Boundary open enrollment, high school course sequences. And then in February, we will be doing a media center update, bring your own device update, and the 100-day enrollment update. Keeping in mind that in January, we start our new format, and our, as Dr. Thomason indicated, our meeting on January 13th, or we have a retreat on the 13th, sorry. Our work study is going to be on January 17th. And then we will hold our actual board meeting on January 31st.
President
And we are
Reese?
going to add counselors to finish their update and their presentation, because they had so much good information, we just didn't have time to get to it, which is why we're going to our new format.
President Reese?
Yes.
I just kind of want to have an idea of when we will start seeing some of our SMART goals come in from the strategic plan. Do we have those dates coming forth?
President Reese, members of the board, I believe we'll be discussing that on part of our work retreat, our retreat, and then moving forward, we should be having those goals come on a regular basis during our work studies.
Mrs. Reach, can you verify the time of our retreat? At 8? I think 8 to 12 would probably, if she's arriving at 8, I think we can accommodate her and do an 8 to 12. Because that would be the next time we meet. So, thank you. Any other questions?
If perhaps we could have an update in reference to the workshop that we had on orchestra, and if there's been any discussion as far as where we might be going or things like that from that last workshop that we had. That would be a nice thing.
Can you get an update on that? If any action, any further discussion, what we're looking at our orchestra program to be, and include that in our superintendent's report?
President Reese, members of the board, we have a meeting set up to meet with Dr. Schillingberg and Sherry Richards coming up next week to have some discussions on those projects.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other items?
Should we wish people a Merry Christmas before we adjourn?
No, you can't do that. Happy holiday. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you. Yes. So this is obviously the last time we meet this 2017. And so we would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, Happy Winter. Enjoy Christmas break, or holiday break, winter break. Enjoy break. And with that, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a good night.